At the start of the film, we observe Annie asleep in her bedroom. At that moment, her closet door opens and a masculine voice calls her name. Annie thinks it's her father when she wakes up, but she's startled and starts crying by a strange growl. Then the closet door opens, and she feels a malevolent spirit approaching and claiming to be her father. She screams for a moment, but then there's a crunch and we see a shot of blood spatter on a neighboring photo. Next, we encounter a distraught Sadie, who recently lost her mother Kara in an automobile accident. She resides with Sawyer, her younger sister, and Will, their father, who works as a therapist. As Will is about to send his children off at school, he notices Sadie wearing her mother's outfit and remarks on how well it fits her. She meets her buddy Bethany when she gets to school, and she is welcomed back. While everyone else is staring at her as if she has some sort of illness, Sadie praises her for talking to her. Then Natalie arrives there with a few other girls, telling them that she doesn't believe wearing her mother's clothing is a smart idea because it seems like it could make it more difficult to move on. After Sadie calls her a bitch for her nonsense, Natalie shoves Sadie and splatters bad food all over her dress. In the meantime, Will receives a visit from a disturbed man named Lester Billings who says he has to talk to him. Will states that he always consults over the phone before seeing a client, but he claims that he is unsure of what to do if he doesn't tell someone. As he sits and listens to Lester's story, Will asks Lester if he may close the closet door as he looks at it. Lester then confesses to him that he killed each of his children one at a time. He came to him because he felt he could comprehend after reading about his wife's tragedy in the newspaper. What was he saying about his kids, Will asks, which he replies to him that his infant daughter passed away from SIDS and that his two other children passed away 1 year apart. Will question, from natural causes, and he responds, nothing natural. They were rendered vulnerable even if the first one was an accident and it took their lives away. He saw it once, just before Annie's neck shattered, but he has no idea what it was. His oldest did attempt to draw it for him, and he believed that their imaginations were playing tricks on them before they passed away. After checking it, Will asks him, what's this supposed to be? In response, he says it's what happens to their children when they are not paying attention. When Will announces that he must go to the bathroom, Lester gets up to join him and queries whether or not he believed him. After confirming that he does, Will walks away, promising to return soon. He phones the police from outside his office, informing them that he may have a violent individual inside. We also saw that Sadie changed and returned home, but Will was unaware of this. While she is loading her dress into the washing machine, Lester is seen observing her from a distance. She is blind to his presence. Then, as she hears a noise and moves to walk upstairs, her feet unexpectedly step on blood, startling her and causing her to fall. However, it turns out that the noise is her mother's painting supplies emerging from her mother's art studio. She enters and is horrified to discover her mother's studio completely destroyed. She hears some pounding and muffled chatter from within the closet as she bends down to check her family artwork, which has also been ruined. She is terrified and heads for the closet, but when she opens it, nothing is there. It is only then that Will arrives and inquires about her well-being. Instead, we discover Lester's body hanging in the door. And before he could tell her about Lester, he hangs himself on the door, frightening them both. When the police show up later, Will informs them about Lester visiting his house and talking about a shadow monster which he thought killed all of his children. Detective Garland believes that his fear of being discovered or his guilt must have driven him over the edge. Is she certain it was a suicide? Sadie asks. Will responds by instructing her to take Sawyer to her room. Sadie informs Garland that she heard noises like a fight or something before she opened the closet, and Garland urges her to stop talking. It's inevitable that an adult male who hangs himself in a closet will make headlines, according to Garland, and she must have heard that. Later on in the evening, Sawyer tries to fall asleep but is startled when her closet door opens forcefully and something crawls beneath her bed. She is about to tumble off her bed and strike her lip when she glances beneath the bed and notices a hideous monster snarling at her. Sadie is seen watching a movie about communicating with the dead in the meantime. Sawyer arrives and informs her that there is something in her room as she tries to do it. When she goes to see Sadie, she is bleeding, despite her claim that she was only having a nightmare. After that, she goes to her room and tries to extract a tooth that wouldn't come out by itself. When the door slams on its own, forcing the tooth to fall out, they become alarmed, even though she promises she would count to 3 before doing so. When Sadie notices that she is crying, she gives her a hug and hums to soothe her. The Harpers talk about their loss and difficulties moving on when they see Dr. Weller, a different therapist, the next day. When Sawyer talks about seeing something dark, Weller responds that when people encounter frightening things they don't understand, their minds try to fill in the gaps, but they will work through it together. After that, she conducts an experiment in which Sawyer and Sadie are in a pitch-black room with a red light on. She states that this light will first be entirely solid before it begins to flash and progressively darkens the room until it is absolutely dark, demonstrating to her that there is nothing to be afraid of. Sawyer then starts to get frightened as a result of the light flickering on and off. Eventually, she becomes alarmed when she notices the creature crawling on the ceiling and screams as it approaches her. When the lights come on, the doctor assures her that it was all in her head, but they discover that she has soaked her pants. Later on, Will tells them he's sorry and that he shouldn't have allowed the man inside their home. When Sadie visits Sawyer's room later that evening to see how she is doing, she informs her that everything is just in her brain. She finds her closet door open and no one inside when she emerges from her blanket, though, and shortly after that, she hears a tap on her door. It's not until the devil swears it's not real that she emerges to investigate and Sadie's room's light bulb bursts. While Sadie is listening to the audio of Will and Lester's session, she discovers a notebook behind a sofa in Will's office and discovers that one of the pages has been taken out. Sawyer hears a woman humming a tune in one instance, and then a demonic voice calls her name. After a while, she hears someone stomping on her night lamp as she slides it down the hallway. Her foot is struck by the fractured light as the creature materializes from behind her. Using a pencil, Sadie annotates a paper in this scene and becomes alarmed upon recognizing the same monster that has been tormenting her sister. Later, when she takes up the recorder, she hears Lissel expressing regret to his children for not listening to them. After that, she becomes afraid as he cries to get away from her. Later, she sees liquid filling the light that once filled the kitchen exploding, and she catches a glimpse of the monster that has been watching her from the shadows. It vanishes from there, though, when you open the refrigerator door. When Sawyer finally shows up, she accuses Sadie of attempting to frighten her. However, Sadie asks her if this is what she has been seeing, and she becomes alarmed upon seeing the sketch on the notebook. Yes, she responds when Sadie begs Bethany to give her a ride to the Billings house the following day at school. She finds that it is deserted and covered with trash. When Sadie gets inside the house and nobody is home, she puts her phone number on the refrigerator. Now, while she is returning, one of the house's lights starts to flicker. After entering and adjusting the light, she discovers that odd objects that resemble roots are all over the house's walls. Following it, she heads upstairs where she discovers that the entire hallway is lit with candles and that there are some pictures hanging on the wall. Subsequently, she hears a sound coming from a closet. She unlocks the door and a Polaroid camera takes her picture. As the photograph develops, she notices someone standing behind her. Rita asked her later whether this was a dare, and she replied that her husband Lester had come to meet her father. She asks her what it is after showing her that drawing. However, she smashes it, tells her to pray to God that she never finds one, and tells her to leave before she hurts herself. When Sadie reveals that her sister saw it, she responds that it targets the weak and the wounded and follows them everywhere they go until they vanish. Her kids dubbed it the Boogeyman. It needs the dark to remain concealed, enjoys playing with its food, and can even mimic their speech. It also scares people to death. Then she spots the Boogeyman, asking Sadie to stay still because it's just behind her. When Rita pulls her gun, Sadie is forced to flee back to Bethany's vehicle. After returning home, Sadie becomes irritated with Sawyer for bringing up the Boogeyman. As she closes the door and hears a knock, the door shatters open and something seems to shove its way down Sadie's neck as she tries to reprimand Sawyer. She coughs a lot when she wakes up in her bed, but it seems like a nightmare. After hearing some noises, she leaves her room and motions for Sawyer to follow her back inside. When she checks her mother's room, she discovers it is empty. It is then that Will appears with a box containing Kara's possessions. What is he doing? She wonders. He responds by telling her that it wouldn't be a good idea for them to have her belongings around. He responds that Sadie doesn't even understand how he feels, getting agitated, and that he doesn't give a shit about Mom anymore. After admitting his error and offering his apology, he tells her to keep what she wants and to carry it to the basement for him before leaving. When she brings the box downstairs, she discovers further antiques, including her mother's lighter and a video camera with a recording of Kara and Sadie as newborns. When she uses her lighter to try to make touch with her mother's ghost, she finally hears her voice complaining that her voice is awful. When she turns on the light, her mother vanishes from sight. The following day, Sadie invites Bethany, Natalie, and other girls, Cassidy and Anne, to hang out at her place. However, after a time, they grow bored and Sadie informs them that she actually does drugs. They light up a joint after she removes a box she discovered among her mother's possessions. Sadie receives the joint from Beth, but as soon as she takes a drag, she begins to cough excessively. Going inside her room, she takes out what appears to be a string. To her dismay, she realizes that this is the identical string that she pulled Sawyer's tooth with. When Bethany finally arrives to assist her, Natalie exacerbates the situation by filming her on her mother's camera and asking if she might show them the closet where the man committed suicide. She leads them there, where she discovers those root-like objects on the walls and informs them that he was only behind the door. All of a sudden, Natalie closes the door and informs her that this is known as exposure therapy. The boogeyman follows her as she attempts to escape, and then she hears her mother complain that her voice is awful. The girl unlocks the door as it reappears and starts to move in her direction. Natalie claims Sadie is exaggerating when she asks whether she is all right once she comes out. Bethany tries to open the door, but Sadie shoves her, calling her a liar. The girls then leave the house, informing Will that his daughter is insane. Sadie smacks Bethany for this. Sawyer discovers the boogeyman slithering about while she is playing PlayStation, which makes her afraid and makes her try to hide. After that, it approaches the couch in an attempt to find her before walking away. Sawyer climbs up and sits on the couch, thinking she is secure now. But just then, it emerges above the TV, leaps at her as she attempts to get away, and tosses her against it. Later, when she awakens unexpectedly in the hospital, Sadie attempts to reassure her. Sawyer tells her that something attempted to kill her, and Sadie responds that she believes her and that she knows. Rita then calls and informs her that she's figured out how to get rid of it, but she needs her assistance to do it. Sadie goes to her dad during this time and asks him what he is doing after noticing him sitting by himself in a room. He informs her that following the automobile accident, they purchased Kara and now Sawyer here. He holds himself responsible for this, claiming that because he did not assist her in processing it sufficiently, she is now exhibiting these symptoms. They are actual, according to Sadie, not just manifestations. Though it was really dark inside, she thought she spotted something in the closet tonight. Was she high? Will asks, because he smelled marijuana on her. She responds, never mind, and walks away, claiming he has never paid attention to her. After that, she goes to see Rita, who advises them to show its strength if it is lured to a vulnerability. She informs her that she has placed spring-loaded firing pins and begs her to watch her step. If she believes she can kill it, Sadie asks. She assaults Sadie and draws the boogeyman out by using her as bait. She assures her, nevertheless, that nothing will harm her, and she turns out the lights. As expected, Boogeyman appears, and the candles in the room start to go out as soon as he walks in. Rita's trap shoots shotguns in his face as he jumps, causing him to pass out and collapse. When Rita emerges to investigate, she shoots him once more and tells him that she warned him it could be killed, but only after it attacks and tears her in half. The boogeyman follows Sadie as she frees herself and attempts to flee, but Sadie escapes the house. Then, she receives a call from Will informing her that they have returned. Sadie advises him to simply return to the car and head somewhere bright and crowded, but Sawyer notices the boogeyman inside the home as Will enters. When the boogeyman drags them in, Sadie rushes to assist them by heading towards the home. When she gets home, she finds Sawyer and asks her where her father is. She responds that it brought him down there. After assuring her that they won't loot him either, Sadie informs her that she saw it bleed, indicating that it may be harmed and that perhaps they can stop it. After that, she goes to the basement to look for Will, but Sawyer follows her and won't let her stay upstairs by herself. They soon locate the boogeyman who was imprisoning their father. After dropping him, he charges at them before vanishing into the night. After another attack that renders Sawyer unconscious, he leaps on Sadie. Then, as it opens its lips to start draining her life, Will rises to defend Sadie from him. The Christmas lights are turned off as Sawyer rushes after the Boogeyman as he throws him away. When they try to leave after her dad gives her Kara's lighter, the Boogeyman emerges in front of them. Sawyer uses the hairspray to make it fall away as the Boogeyman jumps on them. Then Sadie tries to burn it with the fire, but the spray soon runs out. When Sadie throws her lighter at the Boogeyman after Sawyer douses him with lighter fluid, the creature catches fire before it can spread across the entire home. As the Harper family escapes the burning house, the Boogeyman turns to dust. The family goes back to see Dr. Weller with the intention of healing from their shared experience. Sadie hears Dr. Weller calling for her to return just as they are about to leave, but when she does, she discovers that she is not in her office. Then, before Dr. Weller returns, Sadie hears the closet door opening and begins to approach it warily. After that, Sadie just closes the door and the movie comes to an end. To ensure you never miss any updates on new videos, kindly click the bell icon, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.